continuing with our Chargers theme, I couldn't have a slide without the terrible Raiders in there. And of course, you and I both know that these guys are probably saying we're going to win the Super Bowl, and the Raiders are saying we're going to lose every game this season. But anyway, I digress. Back to the geometry. In this slide, you're going to learn about two theorems that have a unique relationship, and we'll see if you can figure out what those are. So theorem 2-4 and 2-5, I put them together for a reason. It says if two lines are perpendicular, then they form congruent adjacent angles. Theorem 2-5 says if two lines form congruent adjacent angles, then they are perpendicular. Now there are two observations I want you to make from looking at these two theorems. Think about it for a second. The first thing I hope you notice is that one of these is the converse of the other. So they've simply switched the hypothesis and conclusion, taking the congruent adjacent angles from one and moving it to the hypothesis, taking the hypothesis of one and moving it to the conclusion. The other thing you should see here is that both of these are true. That's the conditional and the converse. So if both are true, then that means this is a very special type of statement. If both are true, then that means that these could be written in one statement as a biconditional. Okay, and if you're forgetting what those are, I want you to go back to the 2-1 videos to watch the biconditional video, okay? The last theorem you're going to be learning about today is theorem 2-6, and it's worded in a very complicated fashion, so we're going to read it a few times and use this diagram to help us figure it out. Here's what it says. If the exterior sides of two adjacent acute angles are perpendicular, then the angles are complementary. What? If the exterior sides of two adjacent acute angles are perpendicular, then the angles are complementary. I want to focus on the two adjacent acute angles. In this case, they're talking about, let's say, angle 1 and 2. These are two angles that are side by side, adjacent, that are acute. They're smaller than 90 degrees. Now the exterior sides, this side and this side, are said to be perpendicular. If this line and this line are perpendicular, then we know by the definition of perpendicular lines that every single one of these four angles is 90 degrees. Now, if this whole angle right here is 90 degrees, then that means that little angle 1 and 2 add up to 90 degrees. And if they add to 90 degrees, then they are complementary. That's a lot to kind of figure out, so I want you to put in this little reminder. Because those two angles must be 90 degrees, that's what makes them complementary. And hopefully that hint will help you remember theorem 2-6.